Hello viewers, I'm SB and welcome back to Roadwarden, where hopefully we're just about done with this expedition dump and there'll be a little bit more exploration stuff before the next one. The game has to do this to some extent, right? Like, we're encountering all these new places and new concepts for the first time, so I don't know how they would have avoided having just like these huge chunks of information hurled at us, but I am eager to get to the part where we're doing things a little bit more often. All right, so we've just found out about this town and the mayor's sort of disposition within it. We are now being questioned what she can do for us, and I think probably my first thing of interest is, what's the story with Asterion? How did you find Asterion? She stares you in the eyes, then turns toward Agro. Is your palfrey a mare? We have 2 jacks. Could use some mules. It is, but I need it to stay strong and healthy. Right, there's no time for the romances of draft animals. It would take almost a year, correct? It was all just a thought. When her eyes return to you, they regain their sharpness. I'd rather avoid long talks about that man. Let him remain as a part of the past spring. Since you're asking about him, I can only assume he was indeed sharing his goal with you. It's interesting that this is called a lie, because it's not, right? This is in fact the truth, isn't it? That I don't actually know. I mean, like, aside from the fact that we're both Roadwardens, which I guess is a goal in a sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm the one who's a little ignorant here, and I'm not. There's something I'm not grasping about the explicit goal of the Roadwarden. Like, maybe it's clear that my personal job up here is definitely like very guild oriented. Is that all Roadwardens all the time? I guess I was thinking we were a little bit more like a wilderness patrol. Well, I mean, I won't deny that she clearly knows what's up already. Yet you're already different from him. I like it when travelers don't try to sell me blue grass. Seeing your frown, she waves it off. It's just a saying. His words were stronger than his deeds, and he's no longer welcome here. Interesting. So she's talking like she doesn't believe him to be dead. What are his wrongdoings? If you have to know, he failed and won't get a second chance. He was meant to escort Agidia, a daughter of mine, to her betrothed in Gale Rocks. She was a great archeress, and the road from here to the coast is not that dangerous. When they saw goblins on the road, Asterion ordered her to push through, right into their trap. She touches her deer-shaped buckle. They got jumped like a bunch of wealthy pilgrims. A Roadwarden worth their gruel should know better. He can fight with a blade, but my girl, she never had a chance. She sighs and looks at the gate. He disappeared soon after his pitiful attempt at apologizing to me, and we closed our doors behind him for good. I'll let you know if he ever tries to return. Did you ever find your daughter? I mean, like, the implication here is no, right? That this is... So I guess the question is she going to be upset by me asking this? I think asking this before asking any further after Asterion shows care, at least. I don't think it's such a bad move. For a few breaths, her green eyes seek something in your face. Her words are careful, yet hesitant. She's with the Fogs now. The goblins were after food, so they carried her shell away. One day she's going to charge at our walls, awoken and empty. Even though she was a bit mawkish, her heart was strong and patient. She listened to people, was ready to help them and to cry with them. I could tell you stories, but what for? Let the dead rest. I don't know if I want to transition from this to the rest of her family. I feel like I'd like to get her back to a more neutral topic before talking about that. I don't know if this game keeps track of sentiment or like conversational routing in that way, but in the absence of information, I'm just going to like role play it and feel like this is a bad branch into that. Yeah, any idea where I can look for him? She adjusts her cape with an annoyed shrug. Try asking for him in the north. He spent most of his time between white marshes, gale rocks, and creeks. Here, he wasn't that eager to share his plans. Okay, and I mean, like, why did you let him leave? He didn't do anything forbidden by our laws. He was simply stupid and cannot be trusted. But this isn't hoflavon. We have no rich folk to dread. We treat each other fairly. Lost in her thoughts, she rubs the neckline of her dress. One good thing I can say about him is that he didn't try to justify his decisions or to avoid the consequences. But I'd rather have him prove first he can do what's asked of him. Okay. I wonder, back in hoflavon, did you spend any time in Backwood Corner? It used to be this dark, dirty alley, with muggers working even in daylight. I stayed there with Octavia, the miller, in exchange for doing chores with her. She had this small wooden hut. Backwood Corner. So we probably have spent some time in the city, right? We're not from the city, but we went to the city. I guess if the person in our life who's been sick has been sick for a while, maybe we went to the city at a pretty young age to try to provide. I think I like that sort of as a story, so that we have a little bit more familiarity with the city than other people from our background. So that being the case, there's no such street anymore. You wouldn't recognize it. It's become respectable. Place is even more what she says it is. I kind of want to do this one. I think this is interesting. It would make you feel like you're in the old days. The Boarhead Inn is almost 50 years old now. You explain that while the place is still called the bad part of the city, the Boarhead makes good coin selling beer and ale to students, mercenaries, and adventurers. The whole land may turn wild one day, you quote one of the local traders, but Backwood Corner will stay the same. She sighs with relief and puts her left hand on her hip. Comforting, don't you think? That there are these places, these dark corners, where you can always find what you expect. Living there, though? That sounds awful, and always was. She chuckles. I bet the thugs of my youth are no longer around, so I wouldn't count on them giving me a free pass. But I wish I could have a chance to drink a mug or two with the innkeeper once more. The old lady was always too good to stay in that muck. I kind of like the idea that this is exactly the part of town where someone like us would have ended up. A place where, like, if you're not necessarily afraid of a little danger, there's good money to be made. Like, it's exactly what we need, right? I don't know if I want to inquire after her personal wealth. Aside from being rude, I think this is going to put her on, potentially being rude. I think this is going to put her on the defensive, which is not what we need right now. I saw a weird tree south from here, the one with the altar standing in front of it. I want to get her read on the pagans of the area. She straightens up and raises her chin. You mean Beholder, the guardian spirit of our wetlands. Every fall we bring it our gifts, and in return it provides us with its blessed fruit, the flesh of the forest. She stares into your eyes. It's older than the oldest books and the oldest thoughts. The druids help us honor its sleep and show us how to ask for its help. Neither of these rituals, she scoffs, would be of use for you. Interesting. So she doesn't feel very churchy to me. Given that, curious about how she feels about the necromancers in the north. Have you heard of them? She taps her fingers on the table. Yes, I have. After you ask her to tell you more, she seems to regain her composure. You mean White Marshes, for sure. I don't know all that much about what's happening there. We avoid their lands if we can. She frowns. I shouldn't gossip about it with strangers. We can talk on another occasion. When I'm less of a stranger, she means. When she has felt me out a little bit more. Alright, what about Howler's Dell? Well, it is what it seems like, the greatest village in the far north. She raises her hand and makes an inviting gesture. Though I hope to still improve this and that. She winks at you, but is suddenly interrupted by the pained cry of a little boy who hurt his knee during a fall. As an amused elder tries to calm him down, the mayor shrugs it off and titters, then meets your eyes again. Life's good here. We have what we need and a lot of what we want, building on top of more than 12 generations of hard work and bravery. She spends a few minutes telling you about mouflons, wheat, rye, hemp, cheese, and wool, proud of every glimpse of prosperity. Whenever she mentions an artisan, shepherd, or farmer, she doesn't miss a chance to mention how significantly she improved their conditions. Yeah, well, sounds like she's pretty alright at this, both at being mayor and at maintaining mayorship. She also omits some topics. You hear of no tales, songs, ancestors, rituals, or days of prayer. It's like listening to a tax collector. Only at the very end of her speech does she mention the wisdom of the elders, now kept in the teachings of the druids, who help her guide those who trust her. They heal our wounds and our gardens, she explains, then changes the topic to all the fruit trees, hares, and nuts in the woods. Once she gets done, I simply nod politely. Tell me, how do people dress in the city these days? Is it similar to what we have here? Before the war, the merchants were wearing those really long dresses and robes, way too long for my taste. And they got mud stains after every rain, and I see no reason to keep shoes completely hidden. I like how much back and forth there is. This is like a very simple bit of conversation design that most games absolutely do not bother with. Everybody exists purely as an object for you to interrogate. And that this doesn't make her not that thing, but it does make her feel like not that thing. And sitting here being affected by this very simple device, it really is like, it's kind of stunning how uncommon this is. I like this a lot as a reason for a change. There's just not enough fabric to go around as the city continues to grow. This feels dismissive in a way that is maybe sort of missing the mark given how she's dressed. I'm gonna go this way. Oh yeah, not anymore. There's always a shortage of fabric. Most people wear tunics, like in the old days. At least we can hope that if the visitors arrive, we won't stand out much. She laughs, but also adjusts her dress, drawing your attention to its superb quality. And who knows? Maybe our little village here is going to help those unfortunate clothiers. I'm sure we could spare a couple sheets of fabric. Yeah. So I was in the ruined village south from here. Her tense gaze shifts into an awkward click of her tongue as she leans away from you. I don't even want to think about their tragic fate. No one can negotiate with the wrath of the herds. A long pause. And I better not find you upsetting my neighbors with these sad questions. It was a challenging time for all of us. A wound we won't forget. Okay. Alright. So, touchy subjects. I was in the Pelt of the North. The Innkeeper feels uneasy about Glossia's band. When you mentioned the raids on the northern villages, her eyes narrow. Are you sure? It's the first I've heard about it. Glossia's been around since years back, but she's not much of a nuisance. Look, I'm just a messenger. He was asking for you to join forces with him. Well, I can't give you my answer. I won't ask our hunters to endanger their lives in the pursuit of some gossip. Yeah, I could ask around to learn more about this. She sighs with exaggerated relief. Oh, what a splendid idea. There are only 3 villages in the north. White Marshes, farther north by the western road, Gale Rocks by the northern coast, and creeks in the far east. Bring me news from those places, and you'll get my answer. do I want to try to negotiate with her? So, like, I want to seem useful, right? I want to seem like I've come here to help. But we're counterbalanced always by the concern about making enough money to cover medical care for our sick someone. I think I'm going to push a little bit. She's been leaning in on all this prosperity stuff. If I ask for a little bit of negotiation here, if I ask for her to enter into a deal with me, and she's like, we will absolutely not pay you, I'm hoping I'm hoping that's not on the table for her because she doesn't want the village to look unprosperous. We'll see. This might just really sour her opinion of me. Listen, I'm paid for passing the message from here to the Pelt. You want me to ride through half the peninsula and back? That's a different deal entirely. She lets out a brief chuckle, but her eyes observe you carefully. And how much are you being paid, if I can ask? Is you can't cagey or dickish? There's a line here, and I'm not sure when we're going to cross it. In particular, I don't want to piss her off when I'm going to want to stay here tonight. I'll shoot straight. 3 dragons. And I'll pay you another 3. Fair? Fair enough. We talk and talk, but I still don't know where you're from, Samhain. What's your story? Have you lived in hoflavon your entire life? So this is like basically what I've decided, right? Yeah, we're gonna say this one. Yeah, only for a bit. I was raised in a small village just nearby and moved to the city after I decided to look for luck as a Roadwarden. I would like to be able to dig in with a little bit more precision because I'd like to imagine that Roadwarden wasn't the first place that we went. Like maybe we actually worked in Backwoods Corner for a while. But, you know, this'll do. To see the city for the first time after being surrounded by a couple of small houses and fields. It's a strange feeling, isn't it? She puts her hand on the table. Even after my second winter there, I felt like a stranger. But those who know how to live in the countryside, close to the wilderness, we will always find a new home for ourselves, don't you think? She gives you an encouraging smile. So yeah, I didn't do that as a ploy, but it is worth noting that, like, she seems to very much enjoy the fact that we have a similar background. Do I want to press on this? I don't think I do. And I guess this is technically my job. At the very least, like, knowing if she has an answer for this would be helpful. Listen, what would it take to make you consider joining hoflavon? I can consider it right now. While she laughs, her eyes remain keen. But if you want me to give you some answers, let's see. She looks up and to the right, theatrically raising her hand to her chin. Some gestures of goodwill would be a great start. Since you're the guild's messenger, I need to know you can be relied on. She gives you a wide, white grin. And that's only the first step, I assume. Of course. Do you even have the power to handle tax negotiations? She scoffs loudly at your headshake. Do enough for my village and I'll hand you a beautiful signed letter. A list of all the things my neighbors are looking for, as well as what they can give in return. Your superiors are going to see more than enough to prepare their offer. She rubs her hands. I think that's fair. It's true that do enough for my village is a bit vague, but I accept this. We're in agreement. Perfect. One more thing, though. She puts her elbows on the table, leaning closer to you. If you go behind my back, I'm not going to wait for a dagger. I'll end you first. She rests her chin against her open palms, giving you a disarmingly warm smile. I'm sure people already know that we have a new Roadwarden. Maybe ask around to see if anyone needs your help. The more my neighbors trust you and need you, the more willing they'll be to offer you better pay. Sure. Let's start right here. What can I do for you? Oh, it's so kind of you to ask. But before I ask you to run, let's see how you can walk, shall we? Her eyes wander left and right, and she gestures for a nearby guard to move away. He nods, then gestures at a few other souls to follow. While a few of the locals cast curious looks at you, they turn away as quickly as you notice them. The mayor's shiny green eyes are still locked on you, and her voice is close to a whisper. Since Asterian's disappearance, there's little trade on the roads, and not much news reaches us. Be so kind. Her flirtatious tone distracts you with how obviously fake it is. And help me learn some interesting tales about our neighbors. I smile back at her. You mean ones that weren't meant to reach you? See, I knew that deep down you're a true sage. She titters and straightens up, adjusting her cape without haste. Do you have something to share? Huh. Well, I mean, we can cough up what we have now, I suppose. I'm trying to decide. I wish I could get a little bit more information about the area before putting myself too in bed with her. And like, obviously we can always just not really play her game. I am very curious about how serious she is about that killing me first thing. But I wish I could have a better idea of the footing of the place as a whole before we lead her to believe that we are on her side, I guess is what I mean, with a little bit more precision. It's less about whether or not we're actually willing to help her and more about what deal she feels we are making. Yeah, the soldiers who came here in spring were meant to find a good spot for a new outpost. She smiles widely. You don't say. Knowing that, I'll prepare a few very tempting suggestions for the officials. After she seals her lips, she lets out a quiet chuckle. Also, the squad that made camp at the southern crossroads is now nothing more than 2 people. They plan to return to hoflavon before fall. Since they cleared that camp of brigands, they went so quiet I almost forgot about them. She rubs her chin with her thumb. I'm surprised they managed to stay alive to this day. Sending such an inexperienced group here shows the officials misjudged this land. Yeah, well, I think they're going to get that message loud and clear. That's all I have for right now. I keep thinking, surely city folk don't just eat wild game, saltfish, and groats. What animals do people breed in the nearby villages? Yeah, okay. Maybe this is what my village does. Maybe we are a, what would it be? Where am I from? Am I from hilly terrain? Am I from... I kind of like ibexes. I'd like to believe that I am from a village where they help to breed ibexes. They do well on the hills. So, just like in the old days, I even saw some of them in the city. They're annoyingly good at climbing onto roofs and walls. But, more importantly, she adjusts her dress and smiles. It means that our mouflon cheese and wool are going to be quite a commodity. Yeah. Alright, thank you for your time, I guess. We should probably talk to the innkeeper. It's getting pretty close to dusk. Then I just totally clicked a different button than that. That's fine. We'll do this too. The man behind the counter is inspecting a sack of white flour, mumbling to himself and occasionally cursing. The other locals walk away, giving you a space to talk trade in peace. Weevils. He points at a little dark blue insect that's trying to flee. Shit me fire. 'Twas ground a few days ago. No pies for us tomorrow, looks like. He puts the sack on the ground. I'll take care of it later. A Roadwarden, eh? Even the mayor cared enough to see you, and kids are lining up to look at your horse. Strangers are like ghosts to them now. He's wearing a simple brown robe with no hood, a rope instead of a belt, and a modest trim made of green thread. It barely reaches below his knees, revealing his sandals and crude pants made of linen. At the same time, it's way too large for him, and hangs from him like a bag. He looks like a poor vendor from hoflavon. He stands sideways to you, his legs crossed, leaning on the counter with one hand and keeping the other one on his hip. He's around 40, short and a bit greasy, with a humble beard and hair. His fingers are unusually long. He seems like a, what's the word I'm looking for here? He doesn't necessarily seem like the friendly lean in, let's be pals type. I'm gonna maybe go distanced here. Yeah. Hey, I'm looking for a trader. You don't find much of a marketplace here, but you're at the right spot. Everyone brings here what they have in abundance, and I either sell it to travelers or divide it among the workers, builders, and artisans. These things here are not mine. He runs his eyes over the crates and barrels. And I wouldn't call myself a trader. I'm just a kakios. But I can show you our wares if you want. He smiles gently and looks toward your pouch. Our shelves are getting covered in dust. We could use some dragon rings or treasures. My neighbors will look at you with a kind eye if you bring them new. How do you say? Commercy? Yeah, commercy. He grins. Exactly. People do not generally like to be corrected, is my experience. Especially if, they're using a word that's from a language and you, quote-unquote, correct them into your language. Does not usually go well. Listen, what can you tell me about Asterion? Maybe he'll be more friendly if we talk business a little bit first. But I want to lead with this. That Eva is even, right? That even though he was here more than once, he did not leave much behind. Smelly hoarder. He looks around and spits on the ground. At least he bought a blade from me. Do you remember what blade it was? Sure, 'twas a special one. A sickle sword, with a tip wider than 'twas at the grip. Long as from fingertip to shoulder. Nay a sword, nay a knife. Single-edged. Brought his own steel to melt for it. Huh. What's it good for? Fencing? More for cutting bushes, creepers, roots. It will not fell a tree, but it's a fine tool. He nods to a passerby, but his smile disappears as quickly as it had shown up. Pathfinders use it. My pa used to have one as well. He chopped nuts with it. Nuts and mouflons. It sounds like a machete, basically. So he took it to the wilderness. He shrugs. Pretty much anywhere. There are hills from here to the coast, and bogs in the north, and the heart of the woods. Can I help you with it? Okay. Listen, do you need any help? I could use a job. You know what? There's something urgent. I need a medicament for my daughter. Not that she's hurt or anything. He raises his open palms, as if to show that he's not holding a knife. She's a teen, wants to start hunting in the woods. I cannot teach her much, but I'd sleep better with her having a healing potion. He hesitates, almost 9 days. Bring me the potion before the last dusk, and I'll pay you 5 dragon rings. So, a healing potion like the one we already have, maybe? So she didn't want to take the stall after you? But that's fine. She hates me. It's better for her to take after her mother. Your daughter hates you? This feels like prying. I'm not going to pry. A strong elixir would be worth more than 5 coins. Well, now, it's all I can pay. He spreads his arms. I do not sculpt you stupid. The dragons I get here belong to the village. 5 is a fair pay, and I'll mention to all the neighbors how helpful you are. He takes a deep breath and adjusts his robe, still sweating. Yeah, all right. Where do you reckon I could find such a potion? I could think of 2 places. The safer bet is beyond Old Pagos on the mountain of the crazy monks. Crazy and boring. They're more boring than a mouflon, but they often brew with Numa. You could also head south, east of the crossroads behind the Pell to the north. I've never been there myself, but you'll find a dolmen there, as old as a city. And this, he reaches for his clinking pouch and pulls out a massive iron key, is meant to open some secret passage there. Okay. How do you know about this secret? From a merchant. She's from south of Hag Hills. I was meant to pass the key to her friend, but he never showed up. And you've just been keeping it at your side ever since? I kept it with my trinkets and coins, that's all. We were planning to go there for years, but it is one of those things you talk about and you do it. His brief laughter turns into a cough. Yeah. That's pretty strange. I mean, I guess the road's not, like, super safe. We did see goblins and beasts and all, but it's, like, not even half a day's ride, right? Like, you could be out there and back? I don't know. That feels strange. I'll look for it. I don't need furniture or barrels of food, but do you have anything else for a traveler? It's hard to say, eh? What do travelers need? He clears his throat and turns away to have a look at his store. While some of the crates and barrels are empty, they carry an assortment of odds and ends. Tools made of wood and stone, pots, mugs, seeds, vegetables, and fabric. It takes him a few minutes to look through the wares. He puts 3 packages on the countertop, and as he unwraps the first one, you recognize what it is by the shape alone. Tell me this is no beauty. He chuckles and lets you hold the shiny battle axe. The haft is long, but the head is light. I know what you're thinking. Your eyes say everything. He praises the weapon loudly, but you barely listen to him. You see your reflection in the unused blade, as sharp as they get. You're not a smith, but you see not a spot of rust. When you take a swing, it takes hardly any effort. The leather straps holding the pieces together are just a decoration, and the handle is as smooth as glass and perfectly fits into your hand. The man chuckles. You like it, eh? Well, I doubt you can afford it, but do not worry, that's not all I have. Alright, let's look at the rest of it then. His long fingers tap against the parchment windows of a lantern. Its frame is cheap, made of oak. 'Tis glued and 'tis quiet, he says while shaking it in the air. As fancy as the iron ones with oil, but you can carry it in the caves without luring all the corpse eaters and goblins. Perfect for a traveler. Just take a look. Inside the lantern, you find a place for a candle. Not a great match for people living in wooden houses. Hide and glue are not easy to make, but I will not ask for more than 4 rings. The last sack is as wide as a saddle and 3 hands tall. It contains a whole bunch of undyed linen sheets. We usually keep them for traders, but we could use a few dragon rings. And who knows if there's ever going to be a next caravan. He gives you a long look. Interested? I don't think so. I mean, I guess it depends on what you want for it. Okay, just a big stack of linen sheets. I have no use for this, personally. A wooden lantern, I don't have a lantern of any kind on me, right? It does seem like it would be useful. What about goods to sell? Different traders are interested in different goods. They'll purchase only some of the things you have to sell, and their offers may vary. He gestures for you to gather your things. This junk doesn't interest me. We're looking for what we cannot make by ourselves, like iron or enchanted items. Next time, maybe. Yeah, okay, I might be able to scrounge up some of that sort of stuff. Alright, this time we're actually going to talk to Eric's. Even though the counter stands outdoors, it's not rotten or dirty, and you guess that, like the other furniture, it's brought inside every night. Eric's approaches you with a smile and leans on its surface with his fists. He's portly and even taller than his neighbors. He's got freckles, short gray hair, and an elegant beard. His long woolen orange tunic has a decorative cut right under the neck, and loose braids at the edges. How can I help you, traveler? His accent is heavy, nothing like his wife's. He stomps with a heavy boot and looks around as if he's just waiting to get back to his other tasks. His fingers are still dirty from weeding the garden. So his accent is heavy and nothing like his wife's. Doesn't tell us much, but his wife and most other people around here have that, what reads as like a Scottish or Irish or something. So maybe his accent is just the way my voice sounds. That's how I'm choosing to interpret it. You got any rumors to share? No, definitely not. Rumors? Not really. I have my own things to worry about. Neighbors keep their own company. Better for everyone to seek help from my wife or the forest speakers, not in a mug of ale. Yeah, so no rumors. But maybe you've heard about someone who might need my help? You say it as if we expect travelers to get here any day now. I'll ask around. Come tomorrow. Yeah, have you had any interesting guests recently? This is prying, but hopefully he'll understand. do not know. There was one vagabond, but he wasn't here for long, and didn't do much. A timid fellow, talks loudly, but is afraid of everything, especially the guards. His face is touched by flames. He has a big ballista. He says this word with a strange accent, smirking. And a large bird as his beast of burden. I do not know what to say. He went south and is most likely gone. Interesting. Well, I mean, honestly, I could use a room. Let's talk about food first. I keep them in the hall. Smoked mutton, a sack of dried fruits, nuts, biscuits. We eat fresh here and pay with work. Coins are not worth much. When he thinks, his lips move as well. Let's say 1 ring for enough food to fill you for 2 days. In hoflavon, that kind of price would buy you 3, even 4 times as much food. If you're in the mood for spending, I also have something special. Just give me a minute. He goes upstairs and returns with a small wooden box and a hand-long leather sheath. 'Tis a teeth set. You're afraid of what he's going to show you, but when he opens the box, you realize he meant teeth cleaning. See? He points at 3 different compartments. Salt, cloves, and mint. You mix whatever you want here. The 4th holds only a small pestle made of polished stone. And here are the twigs you need. They'll last for months. Seeing you're not convinced, he takes a deep breath. We do not let outsiders bathe in our creek, but give me 2 dragons and I'll ask my kids to get you in shape. You'll get a tub with soap and rose oil, and they'll wash your clothes in water. I'll cook you something nice, much as you can eat. 2 dragons is not a small price. Show me those rations first. I mean, I definitely don't need food right now. Hygiene is going to be very expensive. Okay. I could use a room. Sure thing, he nods. My kids keep it cleaner than you'd find in the city. Just tell me when you're ready. Yeah, soon. We'll be poking around town a little bit. I really want to get to tomorrow, honestly, because I want to ride back to that dolmen and look for a keyhole. But there's an awful lot of people left to talk to here. All right, I'm going to leave the square. Okay, it's too late to talk to most people about work. That makes sense. You're wandering through the village. 3 drunken youngsters are having something between a conversation and a mumbling exchange of jokes. A group of children covered in mud gathers by your mount and argues loudly about what's better, horses or donkeys. Let's go to the local priests. I want to see what their deal is. You head south of the dead italicized tree in the main square. Before you get to the second thatched building, a large man stands up from a bench and gets into your way. He's close to 50, taller than most people you've seen in your life, broad-shouldered. His hair and short beard are brown, matching his elegant woolen robe. A thick club is attached to his right wrist with a leather strap. He left his sandals by his sitting spot. Many want to speak with our guides and teachers. He speaks with a solemn, strong voice. But you're no welcome here. Turn back, stranger. I'm your new Roadwarden. Are you so sure that no soul here needs my assistance? His harsh look softens. We can handle ourselves. If that changes, Elpis will summon you. Can I know why? You can. He swings his polished heavy weapon. You're from the outside and cannot be trusted. The boors and slaves of the United Church would crush us if they had a chance. Before we allow you to spy on us, we need to be sure it is worth it. I'm not a spy. I don't believe you. Yeah, alright, fair enough. I didn't think that was going to work, but I really want to meet with their druids. I'm very curious to do so. We will just have to earn some trust. Let's go head to the tailor, since apparently his stall's open. You follow the guard's directions and reach the whitewashed building standing on the western bank, next to a small garden of flowers and herbs. It's well kept and clean, with a plain, beaten front yard, in parts covered with sand. Through the open windows, you catch a glance of the furniture, made of smooth, almost shiny wood, with hints of dark cherry-like red, decorated with carvings of plants. A woman in her 40s is sitting on a wooden bench. The table is covered with fabrics, threads, and needles made of bone and iron. She's sewing a long sleeve to what's going to become a blue tunic. Her movements are quick and confident. Her brown, wavy, shoulder-length hair is tied into a wreath-like braid, but other than that, her clothes are simple and inconspicuous. She doesn't have a left leg, but you don't notice any cane. You observe her for a few moments until, without sparing you so much as a glance, she encourages you to speak with a grunt. I'm looking for a tailor." "You found one?" Her voice is low, and she doesn't stop her work. "Name's Bian." Could you answer a couple of questions for me?" The boredom in her voice is palpable. "I'm nae a bard." "Yeah, okay, fair enough. I'm interested in a new set of clothes." She stops her work and looks at you briefly. "Aye, I can tell." You don't hear even a hint of mockery. "But that's a lot of work, and I dinna take my work lightly. If I were to give you anything, people would see it, and I'll let you show them some rags." And by that, you mean that your prices are high. You reach for a pouch, and she answers with a nod. "It'll take me a day or so to finish, and a fine fabric. Your city clothes are..." She frowns. "Just fine for the wilderness, I guess. What I'll give you is for the time with lamb meat and mead, near pathfinding. The longer the outfit you want, the higher the price, though I'll consider the things people say about you as well." "Yeah, alright, let's discuss it." So, okay, some clothing that'll give us a little bit of a different vibe. Pretty expensive stuff relative to the money we've seen so far. It really feels like with the price of goods we're seeing here, maybe I'm not getting a fair rate on the scouting mission I've undertaken. Alright, good luck. My Gambeson's in fine shape. We don't need to talk about that. I guess back to the main square. I can just choose to sleep. I mean, do I want to ride out? Only an hour before dusk? Maybe it'd be best just to take the night. I don't really know what's in either direction. I really don't want to get caught outside as things start to get dangerous. I think let's just sleep. So if I press this, is it going to give me... Okay. So we could sleep on a mouflon pelt. There's a lot of noise outside, and you can sense a heavy, unpleasant smell coming from the cauldron. But at least the fur is fluffy, and you can cover yourself with a blanket. Or we could spend two of our remaining coins here for our own room with a comfy bed, a locked door, and a lot of space. You'll also get a large breakfast, a wash tub with water and soap, and cleaning for our shoes and underwear. So our hygiene won't go down, and we'll gain a lot of stats. In fact, I think this is worthwhile. Your first sleep ends, but your usual 1-hour break is instantly disrupted by noise. You stand up, walk to the window, and see the reason for the commotion. A group of workers is just outside the inn, drinking and laughing. Eric's the innkeeper is among them. You could join them, but if you do so, you won't get a good sleep tonight, and after such a long day, you may wind up exhausted. It probably won't affect our appearance, right? That's all the washing and whatnot. So it might affect our vitality gain. I think it would be unwise to skip out on this, both for the opportunity to show them that I can get along, but also for the information that might potentially be wheedled out of people who've been drinking. I can sacrifice a bit of sleep. Yeah, fair enough. You lose track of time, surrounded by the smells of old ale and cold roast lamb. The excuse for having this celebration is the recent birth, the very same that was occurring when you arrived at the village. The young mother is exhausted and is the first one to leave, but more than 10 people stay, poking at her partner with kind-hearted jokes. Use the next week the best you can, says one of them. No sleep for you after that. You may be a stranger, but your presence is welcomed with joy. The small talk is just as engaging as you'd expect from people who have already slept for 3 to 4 hours today, but there's something pleasant about them sharing their parenthood stories and plans for the future. The humming of Howler's Creek and the lights in the dark make you feel as if you belong here, and that's a delightful illusion, especially in a group of strangers. At one point, you're asked about your own journeys, though you prefer to keep most of them to yourself. One of the hunters encourages you strongly to travel to creeks. They're a fun bunch, you see. They love to meet new people and be ready to wake up with a spinning head. I'm one of the first people to get back to bed. Okay, but we still gained the vitality from resting. We didn't lose that as well, so that's actually pretty good. If you're at an inn in the morning, you can spend the entire day on resting. It doesn't feel to me like we need that. You spend the night in peace in a clean bed with a tightly shut window and a warm blanket. In the morning, you find a stool placed by your bed, covered with 2 boiled eggs, a cup of buttermilk, and some mouflon offals. Once you get dressed and go downstairs, a young boy who's covered in mud and speaks unusually loud and enthusiastically mentions that Agro has already been brushed and watered. You nod, but he runs outside without noticing it. Yeah, I mean, 2 coins is a lot of money, right? The innkeeper is sitting near the door, from time to time carrying out another bowl with either stew or gruel. Theus is nowhere to be seen. Yeah. Let's talk to the innkeeper and see if he's got some idea who might need our help yet. And if not, I think we just ride out. We'll come back later. Did anyone happen to contact you about work for me while I was asleep? Very much so. Ask for Timo. She's usually at the creek, just outside the southern wall, doing laundry. She wants to find herself a husband. There's not much in it for you, unless you'll be here for the marriage rites, but it'll make her happier. Yeah, I mean, that'll do. So we're looking for Timo. Before you reach the gate, you find 3 washwomen who are walking down the path chatting loudly. The wet hair on their arms and legs shines, contrasting the mud on their feet. Some of them wear soaked shirts. All have their heads wrapped in kerchiefs. You know from the city how hard and sometimes dangerous their job can get. You glance over their laundry baskets filled with clothes, and buckets of urine. Once they notice you, one of them puts her things next to a fence and tells the others to go ahead without her. Her companions giggle, but loyally leave the 2 of you alone. I was so hoping to speak with a traveler. She starts and looks away. Whenever she speaks, she's both very direct and distracted, struggling to explain her plans. After a brief conversation, you try to sum it all up. So, you seek a man who'd agree to take part in the marriage rites of your druids. She nods energetically, but then freezes. She's tanned from work, but her face is young and smooth, and since her hair is hidden, her bright hazel eyes keep drawing your attention. Not just any man, she interrupts you angrily. Someone who stays in the sun and works hard, for us and our kids. You ask if she has any children already, and after another minute of her awkward explanations, you take a guess that she doesn't. You ask if it would make a difference for her to move to a different village. We live good lives here, safe and plentiful. I'd rather stay, but I could leave with a safe convoy. Okay, and I guess I'll just be your dating app? I don't know, I'm about to go right around. Nobody else is going to have a better chance at finding her a husband, I suppose. But it does seem like maybe they're not going to know a tremendous amount about each other, is all. What about... I'm at least going to offer my services to the guards. I'd like to know what the time to money ratio is here. A group of workers is going to explore the forest gardens, seeking wood and mushrooms. You'll ride ahead, looking out for threats. Task will take about half a day. For a single coin? I think that's unwise. It's an unwise use of my time, as much as I do need to, ingratiate myself around here. So, riding back to the dolmen and then back up is going to cost us about half of the day. But if we find the potion, we'll actually be compensated quite well for that time. And also, I have to admit, the burning curiosity. On top of that, as we're exploring further north and west, This is only going to get more annoying to ride back to, so let's do it. All right, enter the chapel. Look around for a keyhole. Look around for... I'm pretty sure I tried this already, right? He didn't give us any other information, did he? Gosh, I wish I could, like, Control F this conversation. If we don't get anything for our half day's riding here, it's not the end of the world, but it's not great, certainly. Okay, so this is not the full archive of all of our text, which, you know, makes sense. Do I have... Support of Howler's Dell. This wants me to spy for her. Do I have a quest here that is... Actually, gather wealth. Okay. I was kind of curious if there was a number available. So we don't really have a way of reviewing the text, it looks like. Yeah, that's rough. I agree. Their prices do feel a little high. All right. Well, maybe this trip was wasted then. I was hoping that searching for a keyhole would be good enough. I have that key, right? You can find it in the southeast. Oh, well, that's where the dolmen is, not where the passage is. Maybe if I had the lantern, if I had a source of light, perhaps I could do a more thorough job. That's right, I forgot about those fish traps. I don't know that the fish would necessarily be food, but... Alright. What else might we look for? How might I word this that I may potentially actually get some information here? What are you looking for or paying attention to? The walls? I'm paying attention to the walls. They are all around you. Yeah, fucking okay. This is like a big stone slab, right? What is the... Shoot. Let me... I was hoping to get a new description of the dolmen. Because, like... The only place for a secret entrance to go is down, right? How do I word this? Like, I want to look at the floor. I want to look at a way of prying that thing up. So I'm looking for trapdoor, maybe is the word that I want. You make a couple of small holes in various spots, but the most interesting area turns out to be hidden beneath the remains of an old campfire. You move all the ashen pieces of wood until you find a well-preserved plank. You dig around, finding a solid trapdoor with a steel padlock. Hell yes. You insert the key, and after a bit of wiggling, something clicks. The padlock is cold, dirty, and rusty, but you easily get to the iron latch, which moves away smoothly. You have no problem unlocking it. You lift the hatch, and the heavy, humid air suggests an abandoned farm cellar. Your candle allows you to estimate that the tunnel is roughly 15 feet deep, but there's no ladder that you can use. You think about lowering the rope, but you realize that one of the brick walls is covered with large holes, meant to be used as a set of vertical stairs. You hear no sound coming from the tunnel, but the moldy walls and old cobwebs are not very welcoming. So I have a candle, I have light. The lantern would be cool, but there's no reason for me to think there's anything down here, right? I think we can just climb down. I certainly don't want to have to ride back out here again. Let's just go for it. You have to move slowly, learning the new route. You hug the cold, moist wall, seeking the support for your boots. It doesn't take long before you feel comfortable enough to jump down, then light up another candle. Both the walls and the floor are made of stone slabs. You see no movement, no other sources of light. The short tunnel leads you to a small room. The room smells of rotten wood and fungi. Abandoned junk is scattered on the ground and shelves. Earthenware jars, rotting scraps of linen or leather, wooden plates, bones for carving, and rusty iron tools. While these odds and ends may be years or decades old, the basement could be just as ancient as the main floor of the chapel. The one thing that seems to be uniquely fresh and durable is a small wooden box held together by a few fiber cords. Yeah, let's take it. It doesn't feel empty, but it's light. You shake it for a bit, trying to guess what's inside. You can't open the box without cutting the cords. Why was this placed down here recently? Why did the merchant... Gosh, I wish I could see exactly what that text was. I mean, I can go back and review the video after I finish recording, of course. Why did the merchant think that there would be stuff here? Because somebody told him that and left the key with him. So this box belongs to the person who left the key with him, right? Part of me wants to open it now in case there's more in here than he was told. Because I could pocket the difference, right? If I open it in front of him. Well, no, if I open it in front of him, what's he going to do? Try to lay claim to the whole thing? Maybe he'll argue that he owns a split of it because he gave me the key, but I don't necessarily think he would try that. And if it turns out not to have the potion in it, opening it in front of him, I think, is way better for us in that circumstance. So... yeah, for now, let's keep it in one piece. Alright, let's get the hell out of here. Nothing else to do here, that's for sure. So we just ride back to Howler's Dell, and then we can poke around from there. You approach the opening gate and swiftly dismount. A guard approaches you, ready to take your mount to a stable. Hello, stranger. What news do you bring? Yeah, I'll gossip with them for a bit. Even though Howler's Dell is a large village, life here is slow. The curious locals gather around to take part in your conversation. Recently, a couple of kids had stolen a cask of mead, but were caught before they reached its bottom. Well, thank God. You spend a few minutes with Agro, but before you reach the square, someone clears their throat. You turn toward a man in his 50s with large hands, an elegant beard, and no hair. The stable master. He both introduces himself and answers an unspoken question. You frown, then realize that you indeed saw him before, and your palfrey was nicely taken care of during your first visit to the village. Again, this morning. Or rather, I'm one when 'tis necessary, but I'd rather grind flour, he says with annoyance. You do not think your beast waters itself, brings itself fodder from a storehouse, and cleans its own shit, eh? Takes time and hay. If 'tis, he points at your companion, if this is not going to work for it. Okay, I see. If 'tis, he points at your companion, is not going to work for it, you better have a pouch at hand. You look behind you. The stables are not much more than an open shed with piles of planks, 2 donkeys, and a bunch of napping chickens. Would a dragon bone be enough? He nods. For one day. Aye, that's fair. He looks around, rubbing his hands together. Education could be of use here. You know, come to think of it, it really is an opportunity for the village. Horse manure makes great plant food. You describe what you've learned during your studies, and the man stops paying any attention. Fine, he sighs and turns around. I'll grab a shovel and a barrow. Okay, issue solved. I'm doing y'all a solid just by being here. You're wandering through the village. You see a crying boy surrounded by 3 older girls. They clean his injured knee while stopping themselves from laughter. An upset Mouflon is bleating time and again, waiting for someone's attention. Yeah, I need to go talk to Akakios. Is anything new here? Nope. Pretty basic stuff. Akakios. The trader walks around gossiping. Whenever someone approaches the counter, he moves back quickly. When Akakios notices your arrival, he tells the other villagers to give you some time in private. Still in one piece, eh? About that potion. Did you get it? I found this box. He raises an eyebrow, takes the box from your hand, and cuts the cords with a dagger. It's filled with rags wrapped around an earthenware bottle. It's small and closed, with a tall wax seal, inside of which you see a thin stick. With a grin, he picks up the bottle gently, jiggles it, and weighs it in his hand, then puts it on the counter. Great. Now let's hope my little girl will get herself swallowed by a dragon. So, we said 5 rings. Yeah. He smiles and looks for the coins in a large pouch. Thanks, O bringer of good news. I take my reward, which is probably less than it's worth. Again, let us note. And say, nothing else for now. I'm just happy to be doing good works for the people of this town. It's too late to ask the locals about work. It's fucking noon. It's fine. All right, I do think that we're going to ride out north and or west here in a moment. In a moment in the sense of our character's life. But this is probably a pretty okay place to cut the episode. I'm going to try to have them not all be 90 minutes each. Hopefully everybody is amenable to that, because I just don't know if my poor human body can take it. So that's going to be it for us for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I am really pleased with the very old school adventure game feel. When I say old school, I'm talking like King's Quest. Old school adventure game feel of having to root out that trap door through a little bit of how do I help the text parser understand what I mean. If the game's got more of that stuff in store with the apparent complexity of the character dynamics and the quality of the writing here, I have to say I'm very much looking forward to the rest of our time here in Roadwarden. I hope you all are as well, and we'll see you next time.